Welcome to Empowering Plans, a show dedicated to identifying waste and undue expense in the health benefits industry, discovering ways to maximize benefits while minimizing costs, and empowering employers, administrators, and consultants to emphasize, once again, the benefit in benefit plan. Today's episode is brought to you by the FIA Group, empowering plans since 1999. Now here are your hosts, the FIA Group's own CEO, Adam Russo, and Senior Vice President and General Counsel, Ron Peck.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Empowering Plans episode here with the FIA Group. It's a special day today. Ron, wouldn't you agree?
It's always a special day at the FIA Group, Adam.
Today's a little extra special.
Extra special.
You know, here's one thing I noticed when I was listening to the podcast. You know, that intro, for those of you who don't know, that intro is actually done by one of our attorneys here by the name of Chris Aguiar. Chris, I think, believes that he has a good singing voice. Would you guys agree with that?
That's debatable.
His mother thinks so.
Right, but the reason I bring that up is he doesn't mention Brady. Brady is now a co-host, and his name is not mentioned at all in the intro. So I think, you know, maybe we have to do a poll with all of our followers, but I'm thinking maybe we need to change that intro to include Brady.
Adam, he's a singer, not a songwriter. He's reading off the script.
That's what I'm not blaming him.
That's right. I still feel loved.
I'm just saying I was listening to our podcast. By the way, all of our podcasts are available on your iPhone. There's a little podcast app. You can press that and type in the FIA Group, and you'll see all of our podcasts there. But Ron and Brady, I got a couple things I wanted to bring up. First, how many of you remember the New Kids on the Block?
I'm trying to forget.
Maybe before my time slightly.
Maybe a little bit. But
It was like two when they
you
came
were
out.
alive, right? So the Hanging Tough Tour was a big thing. Their official fan club was in Quincy, Massachusetts, where my sister and I lived in our teenager years. But many of you don't know this. I'm actually from the same neighborhood as the New Kids on the Block in Dorchester, Massachusetts, by the way, which is also the same neighborhood as Bobby Brown, Donna Summers, and New Edition. I don't know if anybody knew that. But very similar to New Kids, we have groupies, Ron. And I never realized that we're no different than the Stones. No, we're no different than Aerosmith. We have people that follow us around. Some of them a little too much. Some, you know, are obsessed. But we have groupies.
You mean real people? Because I have my imaginary groupies.
I mean real people.
Real people.
Real people that come up to you when you're in the stall in the bathroom. Real people that just stop you in the hall. And I wanted to bring this up because today we have a special guest. And I would consider Brian the leader of the FIA Group's podcast groupies. What do you guys think?
I think that
Perfect.
given the competition, he definitely wins.
Meaning there is nobody else. No, but honestly, folks, we have a very special guest today. His name is Brian Olsen. And Brian, you want to say hello, Brian?
Hello, Brian.
He is a
He
listener.
is
Already
definitely
listening.
listens
Got
to the
it.
podcast. I'm getting nervous with this kid. I don't know about you guys. A little nervous. Folks, last week or a week before, we got an email, and then I set up a call with a person I've never met. I've never heard of him. His name is Brian Olsen. He works at Pritchard and Jordan down in, I believe, in Atlanta, Georgia. And he said how he's an avid listener to the podcast. And I was like, you know what? Maybe Ron and I could just talk to him and see what he has to say. So Ron and I did just that. And we were like shocked that a young, seems smart, successful young person is really amped up about self-funding, about changing our industry. So I guess the first question in my mind was, why in the world does this kid love this industry as much as he does? So Ron and I said, you know what? This kid needs to be on our podcast. Ron?
Yeah, definitely so. You know, Brian, we were talking previously that your timing was perfect because right now there's a new interest, a new campaign in the industry at large to try and boost some of the interest amongst young professionals, new leaders. I know Adam's going to talk a little bit about that campaign, that effort, particularly internally and at SIA. And so to have you come out of the woodwork and show this kind of interest and passion for the industry, like I said, the timing was perfect. And I guess just to start, you know, I know Adam has a few questions, but ultimately, like he said, I mean, how does someone like you get interested in this type of industry in the first place?
But Ron, would you mind just sharing Brian's bio before we start peppering him with questions?
Sure. So Brian seems to be most proud of his joining Pritchard and Jordan back in 2017, which was not that long ago, I'm pretty sure.
It was like 3 months ago.
Yeah, I've lost track of time, but I'm pretty sure. Prior to that, though, he was working full-time with HCM Technology as an analyst, employee benefits department, and he was one of their first interns over at P&J. So Prior to that, graduated University of Georgia, May 2017. Congratulations. A degree in risk management and insurance.
Wow. They have degrees in this.
You know, I looked that up before this podcast, and it looks like the program is like 50 years old. It's one of the best in the nation, so I didn't know that. I'm kind of
Maybe
blown away
Ron
by
and
that.
I could teach there. Ron, what do you think?
You know, I'm thinking in the next life that sounds like a pretty good idea.
I mean, I could sell FIA. We can move down to Athens, Georgia, get a bulldog, and just start teaching some courses.
So actually, my first question, it's not rhetorical. Brian, is it snowing in Georgia? Because it's snowing here this weekend, so that might be the icing on the cake.
Not even close. We are a sunshiny, cloudless sky down here, and I need to clarify one thing. Us speed groupies we have a name, Foopies. So please,
Foopies.
as you go into the future and going forward, please refer to us as the Foopies.
I love this kid. Hey, can we send him like T-shirts, sweatshirts? I mean, we got everything. We
Yeah.
have a FIA full line of FIA gear. I'm telling you, anyone else, if you want to join the Foopies, please let us know, and we will send you an entire kit. I mean, we got everything. Armbands, sweatbands, headbands. I mean, we got everything.
Boy bands, there you go.
You name it. But Brian is currently working towards his Certified Employee Benefits Specialist designation. Listen, trust me, being FIA certified is much cooler than that. I'll be very honest. So I want to get to the first question. I think it's the question on everyone's mind. Brian, why?
Yeah.
Why? Tell us why you're into this. What's going on? What happened to you as a kid?
Really nothing happened to me as a kid. It was really when I was in high school, and this is kind of a background story. I always wanted to be a math teacher. I thought, I love my high school. I love my cross-country team. I'm going to, come back here after college and teach math, run cross-country, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I got to college, and I realized that education was not for me, or in the governmental sense. And so I'm going through college, and I really don't have a major yet until I get in touch with the Terry College of Business. And they said, you need to be a risk management major. I went to one of their advising sessions and they said risk management. Like you guys, I had never heard of risk management before. It was, nobody talks about insurance with a passion. And so I was like, okay, I'll do risk management. I'll take the intro class. It was one of the best classes I ever had in my life. And the reason it was is because risk management is more than just insurance. The first thing that my professor ever told me was that everything has a rhyme or reason. And this is both on the property and casualty side and the employee benefit side. So the first example they gave is, those fountains, those immaculate fountains right in front of hotels? They are not there to just be for aesthetic. They are there to deter suicide car bombers going straight through the door. And from that point on, I was sold.
Wow.
And I was very property and casualty focused, but as I'm going through the program, I'm thinking, okay, property and casualty. I'm going to be a property broker, and then I'm going through all these interviews as I'm about to graduate, and nothing was just aligning up with what I felt was right. Get in touch with P&J through one of my friends, and she was like, you need to talk to my dad. He's a benefits broker. Learn about his experiences. So I reach out to him. We have a conversation. I come into P&J's office, and I'm hooked. Fast forward 6 months, they say, do you want to come on as an intern? And I was like, all right, well, I'm graduated. I might as well. So going through the internship, it was rotational. We got into the property and casualty, the benefits, the private client side. And for some reason, I was just immediately drawn towards the benefits department. The work that I was given during that internship was so meaningful. I'm interacting with employees, employers, seeing that actual change in their life with talking about their benefits, helping out with the census data, all that good stuff. And they, I guess, picked up on that. I really enjoyed the benefits portion. So about 2 months later, they said, do you want to come on full time as our technology analyst? And it didn't even take me a full hour to accept that job offer. Fast forward 2 more months, and I started hearing about self-funded, large employers, self-funding their own plans because they, have a large enough exposure base. I'm like, this is exactly what I was learning in school. Why don't I, dive into it a little more? And the more I read about it, the more I was intrigued and getting so amped about it. I was like, I need to learn as much as I can about the self-insurance industry, stop loss, all that good stuff. What is a tool that I can use or get in touch with? So that is when I started learning about the FIA group and y'all's cost containment strategies. And I was like, this is unbelievable. How do I get in touch with these guys? And, immediately I was just watching the webinars, doing a podcast. And then it was the transparency webinar. I was just so overwhelmed with the passion that you guys have for this stuff. I was like, I got to reach out to Ron. And, I honestly didn't think that you were going to reach out because I just thought I was going to be sifted through, a spam folder or something like that.
You were. Ron goes through spam folders all the time. That's Ron has nothing to do all day.
I never check my junk.
Ron never gets regular emails. So
yeah.
Hey, a quick thing. One of the first things you brought up was risk management. And that's my biggest problem with SIA, with self-insurance. We're not self-insured. Think about it. If you're self-insured, means you don't have insurance. You're self-insured. The word insurance is what I think turns off a lot of people, especially a lot of young millennials. And that's my follow-up question to you. And I believe that having the word risk management in our name really is what we are. We manage risk. I have a group of 300 employees. I'm managing the risk, right, of that they might have high healthcare costs. Just like those fountains are managing the risk of a suicide bomber going through the front door with a van. It's the same thought process. But I want to ask you this question, Brian. Does the word insurance turn you off? Does that make you maybe not so cool as a millennial? Is that a word that you think is bothersome to other people in your situation as to maybe why they don't look at our industry as a career path?
100%. I think when people hear the word insurance, they think of their local State Farm agent and, selling auto and home insurance. I'm going to go work for Geico, when it's 100% totally different from that. Risk management is all encompassing. It's not just insurance. There's cost containment strategies, being a educated consumer. There are certain risk management practices what you can do just by communicating with people. So I think definitely the word insurance will deter people away from our industry, but what they need to know is that it's more risk management, and insurance is just a vehicle or one way we can manage our risk.
Well, it's funny you say that because, my cousin, young kid just like yourself, and he's into gambling. He likes to bet, okay? He bets the spread. And I basically told him that stop loss, if you are an underwriter in stop loss, you're a risk manager, right? You're making a bet. That's basically what you're doing. You're making a bet on a team, no different than when you're picking a team to win a football game, whether it's college, pro, or otherwise. You're a stop loss underwriter. You're looking at information and deciding whether to bet on it or bet against it. It's no different than betting the over or betting the under or betting the favorite or the underdog. And when he started looking at it that way, he goes, wow, this really is cool. I'm making decisions. I'm hedging whether or not I want to invest into something or what the risk is, what the spread should be. A laser is a spread. A higher premium is a spread. A high deductible is part of the spread. So it's very interesting you say that.
It is interesting. And when you talk about insurance, and credit where credit is due, Adam has brought this up in the past, his issue with the term insurance and his love for the idea of more risk management. And Brian, that's exactly what you hit on. So while I love you to pieces, Brian, already, I am a little concerned that Adam's ego couldn't possibly get any bigger, and you just did it. So thanks a lot for that, buddy. We're going to have to expand the door frame. But that being said, you had somebody at some point in your education early on say, hey, listen, I see what you're interested in. Risk management is for you. And they took your hand and they brought you to it. Whereas I think most people probably don't have someone like that who's got their eyes open, who understands what this industry is about, who's able to capture young minds that are showing interest or talent in this field to be able to tell them outright, hey, look, this is for you. Unfortunately, I think a lot of students and people that were in your situation, they don't have anybody who's going to tell them that this is for them. You were very fortunate. And so I wonder, just as somebody who's more recently out of school, is there something that we in the industry can be doing to create this knowledge that, hey, this is what it's about, this is what we do, this is why it's interesting, and maybe do for people in general what that individual did for you?
Yeah, I love that you brought this up because this is one thing I really wanted to touch on today, was that mentorship is I think the primary reason I got into insurance or risk management more is that, so one of the things that I encourage anybody to do, if you're young or old, is to get involved back in your college. They probably have some sort of alumni relations office that is looking for people to either come speak, talk with the students, hire them. Most of the time they're just looking to give money, but there's so many avenues and opportunities that alumni can take to get involved with their alma mater. And so one thing that I was fortunate to be involved in that Terry, the College of Business, offered was a mentorship program where you filled out a quick questionnaire, listing your interests, what you might want to do in the future. And then I got matched with an alumni who was looking to mentor a student, And so they kind of do a kickoff call where, you introduce yourself, you talk about your interests. And so then you come up with a game plan to what do you want to accomplish down the road? And so at the beginning, I had no idea. And the mentor I got in touch with, she is amazing. And the funny thing is that she is not in the benefits industry. She's a construction broker out in LA. But she mentored me from a shy kid who didn't know anything about the insurance industry to being on a FIA Group podcast. And it's her passion that I try and mirror every day when it comes to insurance. She is a firecracker.
So this is fascinating because I think that what you're basically saying is this is not a set it and forget it type thing where, hey, let's change the name of our industry from the Self-Insurance Institute to the Self-Risk Management Institute and just wait for the passion to come rolling in. That we basically need to take an active role reaching out, trying to get in touch with that next generation, get them to understand what it is that we do. And I think, Brian, what's so fascinating about what you're talking about, and this is something that's been stuck in my craw for a while now, and it's something I've been writing about for a long time, is the misnomer that this is insurance in the first place. And by that, what I mean is I'm sure everybody here either has auto insurance or knows somebody who has auto insurance. And God forbid I should bring this cliche up again, but does auto insurance pay for your oil changes? No. Does auto insurance pay for your gas tank? No. Right? And the thing is, that's maintenance. That's maintenance. Insurance generally in all other industries is there to protect you against unforeseeable, unexpected, but catastrophic losses that you cannot afford to deal with yourself. So you pay, there's a guaranteed premium, you're definitely going to pay it, 100% chance you're paying the premium, but there's also a 100% chance that you won't have to deal with, albeit rare, maybe there's a 10% chance this thing is going to happen to you, 5% chance. But even though it's a slim chance that this terrible thing is going to happen to you, if it did, you couldn't afford it. So you need insurance. What we do in healthcare, we don't purchase insurance to avoid an unforeseeable but unaffordable catastrophic loss. We purchase, quote unquote, health insurance to pay things we know are going to happen, we expect to happen. So if you look at really what insurance is, which is paying premium to avoid unforeseeable but unaffordable risk, health insurance does not fit that definition. So again, I think when people look at insurance, what are they thinking? You're profiting off of fear. You're profiting off of risk aversion. You're profiting off of tragedy. Risk and benefits, health benefits, which is what we do, not insurance, but the provision of health benefits and the containment of cost and risk. That's not a negative thing, right? That's a positive thing. People need this very important, very useful thing, which is health care. What's the most effective, efficient way to deliver that to the people? You ask me, that seems like a pretty noble trade compared to saving people 15% or more because they're worried they're going to get totaled by a drunk driver in an intersection. So at this point, Brady, being a young professional, you want to speak to your other quote unquote. This is what I don't get, by the way. I saw the definition. Saya advised that it was what they were looking for future leaders under the age of 40.
Yeah.
Why was I not invited?
You see, I think we had a discussion at first. It was supposed to be under 35, and then some people felt, just on the borderline. They went up to 40 now. So I guess
40 is the new 30.
It is. That's what they say.
So my invitation was lost in the mail?
I think so. Yeah.
All right,
so
I get it.
We'll have that sent out again. I'll talk to someone, make sure we can do that.
So Brady, go ahead as a representative of this future leaders track at Saya. I mean, why don't you put out there some of the things that you guys have been talking about and maybe get some of Brian's feedback?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So one of the things we mentioned earlier and, how insurance is a negative term, I think it's also a negative term or it's perceived to be a negative term because like Ron said, you think of like a big insurance company making a profit and you don't really think of yourself as being, part of the equation. For self-funding though, or for employers who self-fund their plans, it really is a partnership with the employee, with you, the person who is covered. You're both working together to keep costs down because you have skin in the game. And so I'm not sure how you feel, Brian, but I'm still in my 20s, and people in our age bracket, the quote-unquote young invincibles, tend to often feel like they don't need health insurance, especially now. You don't have to purchase it, at least at the federal level. You don't feel like you need health insurance. You're like, I'm never going to get sick. Why bother? Why care? So I think that's one of the reasons why, people don't really think about the importance of cost containment in the health insurance industry if they're under, the age of 40, for example. Would you agree, Brian? Is that still sort of like the thinking of college grads, that they're never going to get sick and nothing bad's going to happen to them, right?
I agree and I disagree. So when I graduated college, I got onto P&J's plan, and when I was in college, I was very accident prone. I have a problem with my shoulder where I dislocated on the fly, and then I have to go to the ER because some urgent care don't take people with dislocated shoulders. So I knew that I was going to need some copays instead of paying a traditional HSA plan where, the deductible's first. So I went after a plan that had a $75 copay because I knew that was going to be something that I needed to deal with. And that's kind of circled back. I think that benefits is more of a lifestyle choice rather than just, a risk management purpose. When I say that, I mean, there's going to be a family of 5 that has, 3 kids that are going to be very accident prone, and they're going to want that copay plan because they might be going to the emergency room for stitches and whatnot. Or there's going to be a young college kid who's accident prone and is going to go to the urgent care for a dislocated shoulder. But then there's going to be that young, fresh kid who never goes to the doctor. Even when he is sick, he's just going to fight through it. Then I would say be on an HSA plan, start funding and funneling money into it to, save money in case you do have that catastrophic event where you're in a car accident and it's your fault. I think it's going to be different for every sort of person, and that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think so. Basically, what you're saying is you had an incident where you sort of slapped in the face with this large bill, and I think that's right. If you're a young person, you think you're invincible until something happens to you, and now you're stuck with this big bill. What we're trying to do is to convince young people before they get sick, before they have that accident or that they have that injury, to care about the cost of insurance because they're going to need it someday.
Right. Moral of the story is anybody can be Brian.
Right.
So we need to put the fear of Brian into people and say, hey, one day you're happy and healthy, and the next your arms are falling off. You could be Brian. So we need to make sure that people are aware that thread is out there. So, at this point, we're kind of out of time. Brian, I guess at this point, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to ask you, right now you are communicating. I wish I could tell you that the people who are tuning in are generally a wide spectrum of professionals in the industry, but my gut tells me that if it's the same people who are attending the conferences, listening to the webinars, coming to the events, you're talking to people who are looking to recruit, looking to hire people like you. And so knowing that, I guess I would ask you, in parting, what would you say to those people?
No pressure.
I say the first thing is to have a fun workspace, cultivate a culture that is something that wants millennials to come work for you, offer a educational program that will help let you grow in the industry. Designations are super important, especially when you're younger and you want to validate that you are somebody that knows the insurance industry. Getting letters behind your name are going to help you a lot when you have those conversations. So I think, 1, cultivate a nice culture that's going to be inviting for a millennial. 2, offer some sort of educational program that can help them either get letters behind their name or just make them a little more dangerous in the risk management industry. And then I think that's about it.
Awesome. So, Brian, I guess at this point, you've been fantastic. You've been wonderful, well-spoken, very intuitive. I think I speak for everyone. I say that you have graduated from FIA groupie to FIA roadie. Welcome to the team.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
All right, guys. So, thanks so much. Adam, you want to close us out?
Well, it was great to have Brian aboard. As always, on behalf of Ron Peck, Brady Bizzarro, and myself, Adam Russo, thank you so much for empowering your plans with the FIA Group. Have a great day.
Thank you.